What if I told you the biggest turning point of your life won't feel like a turning point at all? Not some dramatic breakthrough, not some overnight success, just a tiny decision. So small, so boring, so ordinary, that you won't even realize it mattered until years later. That's the secret nobody warns you about. Life doesn't change in explosions, it changes in inches. But here's the twist. Most people don't notice when they're moving forward, and they don't notice when they're slowly drifting backward. So they assume they're stuck in the same place, when they're not. And that's where the real story begins. Because the truth is, you're never staying the same. You're always moving along one of two paths, an upward curve that leads to growth, or a downward curve that leads to regret. The hard part? Both curves feel exactly the same today. Let's go deeper. There's a reason life feels slow when you're trying to improve, because results don't show up on day 1, or day 10, or sometimes even month 6. Reading 10 pages of a book doesn't make you smarter tonight. Eating a salad doesn't make you healthier in the morning. Saving $5 won't make you rich tomorrow. But skip those same tiny actions, and nothing bad seems to happen either. That's the trap. The choices that shape your future are the easiest ones to ignore. It's not that people are lazy. It's that life doesn't send instant feedback. There's no alarm sounding when you waste a day. No red warning light when you avoid something uncomfortable. No instant penalty when you push goals to tomorrow. And so we underestimate small things. We dismiss them as insignificant. We trade long-term growth for short-term comfort. Because comfort pays off today. Growth pays off later. And most people live for the payoff that arrives first. But here's where things get interesting. Wait till you hear this. Jeff Olson calls this invisible force the slight edge. The slight edge is the compounding effect of tiny decisions, the ones that are easy to do, but also easy not to do. That phrase alone is a wake-up call. Easy to do, easy not to do. Those 6 words quietly decide which version of your life you're building. Think about it. Anyone can read 10 pages a day. Anyone can walk for 20 minutes. Anyone can put an extra $5 into savings. Anyone can say thank you to strengthen a relationship. None of those actions require talent. None require massive discipline. None require having your life figured out. The problem isn't the action. The problem is consistency. The world celebrates dramatic transformation, but the universe rewards the boring stuff. Here's a funny litmus test. If a habit feels too small to matter, that's probably the one that changes everything. But let's flip this for a second, because the slight edge works both ways. Skip the workout today, no big deal. Skip it tomorrow, also no big deal. Skip it for a year, now you're out of breath climbing stairs. Blow $10 today, nothing breaks. Blow it every day for 5 years, you lose the down payment for a house. Ignore your inner growth? Nothing explodes. But one day you wake up wondering why your life feels heavier than it should. That's the downward curve in action. Quiet, polite, deadly. Here's the part nobody likes admitting. Success is boring at first. There's no adrenaline, no applause, no instant validation. Just the quiet work of showing up, even when nothing seems to be happening. But here's the payoff. One day the graph bends, slowly, then suddenly. And everyone else calls it luck. But you'll know the truth. Luck is just your compounded effort finally becoming visible. So here's the question most people avoid. If your life continued exactly the way you're living it right now, same habits, same decisions, same routines, where would you be in 5 years? Because like it or not, you're already heading there. And now the story deepens.
Here's where most people get fooled by life. We expect transformation to feel dramatic. We expect motivation to feel electric. We expect success to feel like a movie montage set to inspirational music. But real growth is quiet, unattractive, often inconvenient, and honestly, kind of boring at first, which is why so many people quit before the results ever arrive. We're addicted to visible progress. If we can't see it, we assume it's not working. But everything meaningful grows underground first. Ask any gardener. The harvest is the last thing to happen. And this is exactly where Jeff Olson drops a truth bomb. Greater than successful people do what unsuccessful people are not willing to do. Notice what he didn't say. He didn't say successful people can do more, or have more talent, or know the right people, or start with more advantages. He said they're willing to read when it's easier to scroll, willing to practice when it's easier to chill, willing to save when it's easier to spend, willing to show up when it's easier to postpone. Not because they feel like it, but because they've learned that feeling like it is irrelevant. Here's a pattern interrupt for you. If you only work when you're motivated, you'll spend most of your life waiting. Motivation is a spark, not a power source. Consistency is the power source. And consistency lives in the tiny, unglamorous actions repeated over and over again. But wait, here's where it gets real. Jeff Olson explains that we're all living inside a rhythm he calls planting, cultivating, reaping. Most people love the planting. New goals feel exciting. Fresh starts feel clean. January gyms are packed. Most people love the reaping. Success feels good. Results feel validating. Achievement gets applause, but almost nobody loves the cultivating. Cultivating is the middle. The part with no praise, no instant results, no guarantees, just faith and repetition. Cultivating is waking up and doing the work anyway, eating the healthy meal anyway, practicing the skill anyway, showing up anyway. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Your entire life is determined by how you behave during the cultivating phase. But here's the twist you weren't expecting. Cultivating doesn't require intensity. It requires philosophy. Olson argues something surprising, that your philosophy, not your effort, determines your results. Here's what that means. 2 people read 10 pages a day. One says, "This probably won't matter." The other says, "This will change who I become." Same action. Different destiny. Philosophy decides whether you repeat something long enough for the slight edge to kick in. But wait till you hear this. There's a reason small daily disciplines work. They compound. We understand compounding with money. Interest grows over time. But most people forget that life compounds too. Knowledge compounds, skill compounds, confidence compounds, health compounds, relationships compound. Small deposits made daily eventually create massive returns. But the opposite is also true. Neglect compounds, procrastination compounds, distractions compound, self-doubt compounds, avoidance compounds. The scary part? Negative compounding feels comfortable at first. You don't gain 20 pounds from one meal. You don't lose your savings from one purchase. You don't ruin a relationship from one argument. You don't destroy your dreams from one day of avoidance. It's the slow erosion you don't feel happening. Here's a quick funny visual for you. No one wakes up at age 60 surprised they never learned a language. They just realize that not practicing for 20 minutes a day added up over decades. And that's where things shift emotionally. Because this isn't about guilt, it's about power. Once you realize small actions are the lever that moves your entire future, suddenly you don't feel powerless anymore. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need luck. You don't need a dramatic life overhaul. You just need to start nudging the graph today. Even 1 degree in a new direction changes where you end up. But before we go further, you need to hear something important. Every tiny action is casting a vote for the person you're becoming. That's the identity layer most people ignore. You're not just working out. You're becoming someone who takes care of their body. You're not just reading. You're becoming someone who invests in their mind. You're not just saving money. You're becoming someone who builds a secure future. The habit is physical. The identity is transformational. And now the journey deepens, because the next part answers the biggest question people have. How do I stay consistent when progress is invisible? Here's the question everyone quietly asks when they try to change their life. How do I keep going when nothing seems to be happening? Jeff Olson gives a surprisingly honest answer. You don't rely on results. You rely on philosophy. Because if you only rely on results, you'll quit before they ever show up. Think about it. When you start saving money, your balance barely moves. When you start working out, nothing in the mirror changes. When you start learning a skill, you feel awkward and slow. When you start a business, no one cares you exist yet. Early results are invisible by design. That's not failure. That's the cultivation phase doing its thing. But here's where most people tap out. They expect linear progress. As if success rises like a staircase. It doesn't. It curves, slow, 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 and then suddenly fast. There's even a term for this, the hockey stick effect. The line stays flat for a long time, then spikes upward, which means something uncomfortable. The majority of rewards come after the majority of people would have already quit. That's the slight edge at work. But now comes the twist. Olson says there are two life curves you're always riding, whether you're aware of them or not. The success curve or the failure curve. Here's the wild part. When you're on either curve, they both feel the same in the beginning. Skipping that workout today feels fine. Ordering fast food tonight feels fine. Scrolling instead of reading feels fine. Putting off that project feels fine. No pain, no consequence, no disaster. But the curve is still moving. Because small neglect adds up just as much as small progress. Here's a funny but real example. Nobody destroys their health overnight. They do it one soda at a time. Nobody ruins a relationship in a day. They do it one ignored conversation at a time. Nobody wakes up financially trapped out of nowhere. They do it one impulse purchase at a time. The slight edge is always there. It's either working for you or against you. And now we hit the emotional punchline. Most people don't fail because they make the wrong big decisions. They fail because they make the wrong tiny decisions, consistently. But here's where it gets hopeful and kind of exciting. The reverse is true too. Tiny positive decisions create massive payoff, invisibly, until suddenly they're undeniable. Now let's talk about consistency, because this is where Olson gets practical. He introduces the 7 slight edge principles, but before listing them, he frames something most people never consider. Discipline is not about intensity, it's about repetition. Anyone can be intense for a week. Almost nobody can be consistent for a year. But consistency is where compounding lives. All right, let's break down these 7 principles and make them about you. 1. Always show up not perfectly. Not dramatically, just show up. Read 1 page, do 5 push-ups. Practice 5 minutes. Micro-action beats zero action. Here's a pattern interrupt. You don't drown from falling in the water. You drown from staying there. 2. Have a positive attitude. Not a cheesy one, not a fake one, a useful one. Positivity isn't pretending everything is fine. It's believing things can get better with effort. 3. Be committed for the long haul. Most people treat goals like microwave popcorn. If it's not done in 2 minutes, forget it. Success operates more like slow-cooked barbecue. Long, steady heat, minimal drama, massive payoff. 4. Have faith and desire. You must believe 2 things. It's possible. And it's possible for you. Most people only believe the first one. 5. Be willing to pay the price. This one is uncomfortable, because it asks what you're willing to trade. Success costs something, so does failure. You get to choose which price you'd rather pay. 6. Practice slight edge integrity. Translation. Do what you said you'd do, especially when no one's watching. Integrity compounds confidence. 7. Be a continuous learner. Here's the kicker. If you read 10 pages of a good book every day, that's 3,650 pages a year. That's like reading 10 to 12 solid books. 1 year and your brain is upgraded. 2 years and your worldview shifts. 5 years and people ask how you got so wise. It's not magic. It's math. But hold on, because the next section is where everything clicks emotionally. We've been talking about habits, choices, consistency, and compounding. But Olson adds one more layer that nobody sees coming. Happiness isn't the reward for success. Happiness is the strategy for success. And once you understand what that means, your entire approach changes.
Let's talk about something most people get backward. Most people think success leads to happiness. But Jeff Olson flips it. It's happiness that leads to success. Think about the people you know who are genuinely happy. Not the fake positive ones, but the grounded, grateful, present ones. They're more resilient. They notice more opportunities. They connect better with people. They recover faster from setbacks. In other words, they multiply their slight edge. Meanwhile, people who postpone happiness, I'll be happy when I get the job or the money or the relationship, end up delaying the very momentum that would create those things. Olson calls this the happiness advantage, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Happiness isn't a reward, it's fuel. And here's where the emotional core of the book lands. The life you want doesn't come from radical transformation. It comes from tiny alignment, tiny adjustments, tiny upgrades, tiny commitments, repeated. And here's something brutally honest. If your life feels chaotic, overwhelming, or stagnant right now, the solution probably isn't to do more. It's to do less, consistently. Fewer goals, fewer changes, fewer giant leaps, more slight edges. Now here's the twist most people don't consider. You're not just shaping your own life through your small daily actions. You're shaping other people's. Olson calls this the ripple effect. One healthy choice can inspire a family. One act of integrity can shift a workplace. One habit can set a new standard for your future kids. One brave decision can make someone else realize what's possible for them. That's the quiet legacy of the slight edge. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to announce your goals. You don't need applause. You just need to keep showing up. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Almost nothing in life rewards you immediately. Almost everything rewards you eventually. Which brings us back to you, the hero in this journey. If you're listening to this, there's a good chance you're not lacking ambition. You're lacking momentum. You know you're capable of more. You know there's another level for you. You know you're not done growing. But you're waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect energy, the perfect plan, the perfect motivation. Olson would say, stop waiting for motivation. Start generating momentum. Because motivation doesn't create movement. Movement creates motivation. Want proof? Clean one corner of your room. Suddenly you want to clean more. Write one sentence. Suddenly ideas start flowing. Go to the gym for 10 minutes. Suddenly you're working out longer. Read one page. Suddenly you want to turn to the next. Momentum is addictive. That's the real slight edge. Now comes the question you knew was coming. Where do you start? Olson's answer is refreshingly simple. Start with one tiny daily habit that aligns with the life you want. Not a dozen, not 5, just one. Here are examples. Want a sharper mind? Read 10 pages a day. Want better health? Walk 15 minutes a day. Want financial peace? Save $3 a day. Want better relationships? Send one message of appreciation a day. Want purpose? Write for 5 minutes a day.
These habits are not impressive today. That's the point. Your success is hidden in your boring choices. If it feels small, it's working. If it feels slow, it's working. If it feels invisible, it's working. Because small plus consistent equals inevitable. Now let's land this story with one final truth. You are already compounding something. The question is, which direction? Are your small choices stacking toward the life you want, or slowly drifting you away from it? It's never a neutral game. You're always becoming someone. The slight edge philosophy is not about perfection. It's about trajectory. And here's the final full circle moment. Your future self is already watching. 5 years from now, they'll either thank you or they'll beg you to start over. But here's the good news. You don't need permission. You don't need a fresh start. You don't need to overhaul your life. You just need one choice today that your future self will be proud of. And tomorrow, another. And the next day, another. That's how small choices shape a big life. If this hit home, don't just scroll. Subscribe and start building your edge.